Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today I'm hoping it's going to be a bit of fun. This topic is meant to be fun. The topic is, what is your most unique spiritual quality, pathway, approach? And it's meant to be a bit quirky, a bit left of centre, a bit out of the box, a little bit innovative, all of those sorts of things. And it's in celebration of the release of another deck by the wonderful creator Danilo Zanino, who you will have seen quite often his work on my channel because I love his work, Blue Dragonfly Oracle, the White Fly Tarot, and now the Cheeky Tarot, which is so cute and so cheeky, as it says, that it pretty much sums up the energy and the vibe that I hope is going to come in this reading. Now, often when I think that things get quite serious, so we'll see what comes up, but I've tried to sort of choose sort of a variety of decks that can pick up a little bit of humour, a little bit of fun, as well as, a serious or a special message for you from Spirit as well. And I think one of the things I love about Danilo's work is how unique it is. Every single deck is really different and really quirky and out of the box, but also profound. And this is no exception to that. He's just taken the Rider-Waite-Smith way of doing things and made it cheeky, made it quirky. So a lot of fun to use this deck, and I'm looking forward to seeing it play out in this reading and bring that kind of energy to it. So what I did to set up the choice is that I knew that I wanted the High Priestess, the Hermit, and the Magician. I wanted 3 of the major arcana cards that were what I would call spirit pathway type cards or spirit ability type cards. And I just basically shuffled and then I dealt out until I got each of them for the order. So this is the order that Spirit wanted. So Spirit wanted pile 1 to have the High Priestess, pile 2 to have the Hermit, and pile 3 to have the Magician. So if you feel particularly drawn to one of these images, or you feel particularly drawn in your spiritual uniqueness to one of those particular energies, a High Priestess, a Hermit, or a Magician, then that will help you choose. If you want to go to more than one, by all means go to more than one. If you want to pause and contemplate, do that. Whatever works for you. As always, if you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the High Priestess. You may have done that because you're really drawn to the concept of the mysteries, the sort of occult and spiritual knowledge, prophecy, all the sort of things that are connected to the High Priestess in general. You might have liked the concept of being in the underworld or the subconscious with the sort of Persephone type energy that's also often attributed to the High Priestess, or even the very strong connection to the moon energy that comes with the High Priestess as well. The other thing about the High Priestess is that she is between the black and the white columns here. That's a fairly typical thing to show her, to show the kind of balance of energy. So there's certainly something in you that is about the balance of energies, about being able to see the light and the shadow, and about the mysteries. This particular High Priestess, I love, she's sort of like, going, shh. So there's a secret. There's something secret about you. There's something, your spiritual path, what is unique, what is quirky, is different. It is very much off the beaten track. You really don't give away a lot, and you would be very, very careful about who you told your particular spiritual secrets and knowledge to. But when you do, it's like they become part of your family, because it's interesting, we've got home here. Home is where your heart is. Where is your heart? Where your heart is where your secrets are. So it's almost as though you naturally draw in people who become a spiritual family or a spiritual home for you out of chaos. So we've got chaos here, we've got complete disorder and confusion. I'm getting, and this is a very basic thing, but some of you may have a very chaotic home life in the sense, and I'm not necessarily thinking here about bad relationships. I'm thinking here of, a lot of clutter around, a lot of noise, a lot of life and all that sort of thing. And in the center of it, you're kind of like watching it all. Or if you live alone and you've just created it yourself, there's a kind of a secret and you know where everything is. I know this energy because I'm trying now to be very minimalist and very ordered in my life, but I have a tendency towards chaos in my environment. And I used to have this at work where I would have a very messy desk. And I had at one point an executive assistant who was trying to sort of sort all this out for me. And I think I drove him mad because I'd go, no, just leave it as it is. Because once you put order in there, then I don't know where anything is. But when it's chaos, I do. So I feel as though there's a kind of an energy around you around this, that many people would think that there is no order and there is no logic, and you're probably you don't necessarily follow a particular spiritual pathway, or if you do, you pick a bit of it and a bit of something else and a bit of something else, because you bring it all together in a secret way that works to your heart and connects you to your people, but also keeps you free, because here we have I am independent, freedom, liberation, individuality, free spirit. Nothing's going to tie you down. You would not be above, I think, using chaos to have everybody looking in the wrong direction while you sort of sped off to do something of your own. Not because you're trying to be duplicitous, but because you are very much your own person. And if you're going to share your own person and your spiritual path, your spiritual gifts, your knowledge, and you would have a lot with the High Priestess, you would have probably a very strong sense of the future and what is going on underneath the surface of things. You're only going to share it where it matters to you. But I think that you can seem disordered, you can seem chaotic, you can seem to not be following any particular path. And it's funny because in a weird way, the energy of these three is a little bit more like the Magician, and yet this came for the High Priestess, because the Magician is a card, or the Magician, if you think about it beyond magic in terms of spiritual magic, magicians on stage do misdirection. There's an element of misdirection here. I don't think you are chaotic. I just think there's something about your environment and there's something about the way that you express yourself that uses that to hide the truth so that you connect to who you want and so that you can be very, very free. So you definitely, I think you would get followers, but they'd be kind of a little bit dazed and confused some of the time, Pole One. I think that you will gradually draw them into you, and in such a way that they understand the method behind your madness, so to speak. So let's use the tarot. Let's ask a little bit more about what's truly unique about your spiritual approach and your kind of magical approach. Then we're going to ask, how do you communicate and integrate this with others? Because we all have to play nice with others in this world. And then we'll look at what challenge does the more conventional approaches present to you. So firstly, a little bit more about this wildly independent, apparently chaotic, but method behind the madness type of energy that you have to your spiritual approach. 5 of Cups, Temperance, 9 of Swords, 8 of Swords reversed, the Hangman. This is really interesting. You are the Queen or King, depending upon how you identify, of misdirection, or the non-binary misdirection, whatever it is, because that's the energy we're seeing. The Hanged Man reversed over here is the quirkiness. You are drawn to this reading, I think, because you're quirky, because you look at things very differently to other people. But you are two sides of a coin at any given time. On one side here, you are kind of the emotional disappointment, the crying, the tears, as this one is, over what hasn't been. But behind the scenes, it's actually really balanced. Here, it looks like you're worrying about everything, but behind the scenes, you've actually already found your way out. You are a master at misdirection. And I don't feel like there's nothing malefic about this. There's nothing that's meant in a bad way. It's just you're very, very private. You're very, very independent and very, very private. And you've kind of worked out that the best way to follow a spiritual approach that is very free and independent is to appear not to be doing it. And, to be calm when there's unhappiness, so the chaos of emotional chaos around you, you're already working out how to bring it into balance. When you're around people or situations that are full of angst, you've already worked out the way out. Like, you'll know the way out of the door before anybody, basically. But people don't know it or see it. It's kept quite private. But eventually, I think, when you found the people that you want to share the secret with, that's when you sort of show the different approach. So it's this sort of like, you are always 1 or 2 steps ahead, which also fits with the kind of prophetic energy here. And you keep your head while everybody else is losing it around them, that kind of thing. So it's appearing to be chaotic while you're already knowing the order of things. And that gives you a real advantage. Interesting person. I think that you would be very interesting in sort of strategic situations as well too, not just spiritual ones. I think you know how to deal with and find your way through what appears to be chaotic and lead people towards an outcome that will work, but they won't know how it happened. They won't know even that you did it, actually. So that's interesting. So given that, I mean, that's a little bit starting to answer this next question in the sense of like, it's a kind of diversion and distraction and sort of like almost invisible thing. But let's ask a little bit more about how you communicate and integrate this. Queen of Swords reversed, Page of Cups, Three of Cups reversed, Six of Wands reversed, the Chariot reversed. Okay. You actually do integrate it to help other people. And I think it is about finding your home and the people you're connected with. One of the reasons you do this, pile one, is you think the world is too critical and too judgmental. You think the world is actually far more chaotic and creative and inspired than most of the systems of the world allow for. And you think, whether it's education or any of those sort of things, that there's been a kind of critical assessment energy that is not a positive one. So you come in almost like a tornado into something like that. Like if there are sort of critical, judgmental, hierarchical sort of energies around, whether it's spiritually, work-wise, education, whatever it is, you come in to like burst that bubble and to bring the heart back. So this is all about the heart. You go to environments where people are not happy. You go to environments where people are not being recognised. You go to environments where people have got stuck, and you are literally, like if you're a tornado, you're the tornado that rips through and then clears everything so that people can then actually rebuild. You're like the tower energy actually in its most positive way. But you target this, you really have very little tolerance for unreasonable, unfair judgments and things like that. And you can see it a mile off. Like you can see it a mile off. And yet weirdly enough, I think even those that do it at the end don't even know what you've done. Like suddenly everything's changed. So if there are sort of situations where there are illegitimate or nasty sort of people running, a team at work or, as I say, an educational thing or that energy's in the family or whatever, by the time you're through, this is all cleared and the heart is back and they're kind of left spinning on the spot going, what happened? What happened? Because you're so mysterious. You're so mysterious. I really like your energy, pile one. I think it's great. So let's see given that there is, you are actually working against, I think, illegitimate judgment and structures and so forth, whether, as I say, it's spiritual or more generally. What challenge does the more conventional world bring in response? So let's just get 3 cards to see that. If they kind of cotton on to you doing this, or even if they just have the sense of the change and they're resistant to the change, what are you going to have to face? 3 of Swords, Queen of Wands, Wheel of Fortune. Okay, I think this says more often than not you're going to win, I want to tell you, because of this energy is too strong. But if they cotton on to what you're doing, then you may sometimes, for your own best outcome and for the best outcome of those you're trying to help, you may need to separate out from a situation. So it's if you can't come in and be the great disruptor, really, because that's what it is, sort of spiritually being the great disruptor, and do it in such a way that people feel empowered, that those who are illegitimate no longer have that power, then sometimes you need to make an assessment about is it the right time and separate out. I don't think that you ultimately give up, but I think you step back. You know who you are, you know what your strengths are, you'll make a very good assessment about this. But if you've hit something that is so entrenched that at this point you don't have the traction, you know that the timing is wrong. So I think it's really along those lines. And if this is sort of like a spiritual thing and you're in a spiritual battle, you're like a great general who's a strategist, and you don't go into the battle until you know you can win. And at that point, you can do it without people even realizing that you're doing it. Very Sun Tzu, Art of War, actually. Really interesting. So let's see how some of this plays out around your fortune. And it's interesting because we've got the kind of fortune card there that you're very attuned to that. So I felt that, if we're looking at, what is really different and quirky about someone's spiritual and sort of life path, fortune will have an impact on all of this, and what is quirky will have an impact on your fortune. So I want to draw 3 cards around fortune to either give you warnings to be aware to deal with or positive things to work with. And then I'm going to draw from a different deck some signs to let you know when that fortune energy is particularly prevalent. So firstly, the Caduceus, you will receive news from afar. Secondly, the Queen, love and prosperity. You're a queen, all right, regardless of, as I say, what gender you are or identify with. And the dagger, conflict and danger. Yeah, well, that kind of sums it up. Sometimes you are going to have some danger to deal with. I think news from afar here, I feel this is your psychic ability. I think you have a very good psychic sense and very strong sort of spirit guides. So I think that guides you through some of this, and it's part of the reason why you can be this still point and this sort of like point of direction within chaos. And you can also have a very good sense, a very good radar for BS actually, so that you actually do only connect to the right people. You are meant to have some position of influence and authority. The interesting thing is, though, I feel that you, as I say, a lot of what you do, people don't even know you've done it. So if you reach a particularly high level in a workplace or in some sort of social or political group or spiritual group, I think in a way you'll still appear to have delegated a lot of that out, but you will have much more influence on it than people think. But it's also meant to bring you love and prosperity, which is great. I mean, it's where your heart is. You're going to find the right people for you, but you are going to hit conflict sometimes because you are the great disruptor. So let's have a look and see what are the signs that could tell you that these particular energies are particularly prevalent. So you will receive news from afar. This could be a sign from spirit to tell you that important information is coming in you need to pay attention of, or it could be when you are getting downloads from spirit, but a sign to let you know that's prevalent. Loved ones in spirit. Okay. So this is there in the family as well too. I think you have a very strong connection to your ancestors and to anybody in your family or anybody you care that has passed on, and they very much watch over you. This is this almost Persephone thing, the underworld and so forth. You are able to connect with that. So I think that is simply saying if you dream of loved ones in spirit, if you think about them, if you think you're getting messages from them, trust that. Then with the Queen, when love and prosperity are coming in, when you're getting the reward for this very dexterous and unique way of dealing with things. The Phoenix. Okay, now that's interesting because of the dagger. I do think, because we see this, that you can assess when something isn't going to work. You can assess, and it's interesting, even if you didn't get out quickly enough, though I think more often than not you probably will, even if ill fortune and conflict does hit, the Queen of Wands is a very good example of the Phoenix. You know, it's knowing yourself, knowing your shadow, being able to rise out of anything and being able to rise out of chaos. Like, you're very strong. And then the dagger, a sign to be aware of when there are those sort of challenges operating. Time. Okay. Sometimes it may be that things take too long, things go too quickly, or you may see some of those things like 11-11, 12-12, that kind of thing. These are all symbols and signs around it. And it is about timing. It is interesting, the dagger and the Wheel of Fortune, because the Wheel of Fortune is all about time, regardless of whether it's upright or reversed. In some ways, it doesn't matter that much because sometimes we're on the rise and sometimes we're falling. And part of your genius, part of your unique approach is to understand that, to not get too worried about that. You would be less worried about the reversals of fortune than most people. But I think you have a very strong sense of time, and when it becomes more important, issues of timing will be very much forefront in your mind. Okay, so let's get you a little bit more guidance. I don't think you need a lot actually, Bowen, but I wanted also, because this was kind of cute, to use a new deck that I've got called Luminous Creatures that has animal spirit guides in it. So I just want to get a couple for you. I'm going to probably have to pause and look them up because I'm not really sure sometimes what the animals are, but they're so cute that they just absolutely fitted with this energy. So for you, it's probably some sort of a mouse. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. So I find it a little bit hard to work out what they are. And, I think that's probably dolphins. So it's good I check because that's not a mouse. That's actually an otter. And that is a dolphin. So The otter in this deck is bringing devotion. So I think that one, it is showing a great deal of devotion from spirit guides, including spirit animal guides. But I think it's also this sort of sense that those who are connected to you, those that you are devoted to and that are devoted to you, you will be highly protective for them and you help them through chaos. But also maybe sometimes when you're recovering from a little bit of a battle, there's a devoted group of people. You will have people around you who really care about you and really get what you're doing. The dolphin is all about communication and assistance. I think it's connecting back here to making sure that you connect with your sort of otherworldly communication, but it is also saying that communication is key to what you do and to be looking at it as how to assist others. So as I say, you have this incredibly disruptive, different, find a new pathway out of chaos type of energy, which is incredibly freeing and incredibly independent and incredibly revelatory, but it also needs to be communicated in a way that people feel that it's giving assistance. So I think the dolphin energy there is helping you with that. Let's get you some stars to guide you as well. Trine, there, ease. You have ease. You have ease in this sort of thing. You can like move, like the dolphin here moving through water. This might be also showing something about your form of communication, this ease to be able to do it. So things come easier to you than to most people, particularly change and so forth. Libra, you want everything to be fair and balanced in the end. That's why I'm saying like temperance, like looks like you're dealing with all this sort of like emotional sort of energy with the Five of Cups, but you're really going towards balance. So you're trying to ease things towards a more balanced way of being. But you recognise sometimes everything has to be thrown up in the air for it to land where it needs to land. And square, okay. So you're a balance of ease and, well, that makes sense. The square is all the tension, it's all the drama, it's all the action that's necessary, and then it's the ease that comes through. And you are about a balance of the two, a balance between the chaotic, challenging energy and the caring, trying energy. And it's balanced, it's fair. So I think that's how you balance yourself. It's like, this is almost like your navigation. You know that you're going to be challenging things, but you're also going to be harmonizing them, and the way that you do it is to make sure that it is fair. Okay, so to finish off this little expedition into your quirky side, which is very interesting, I've said, pile one, I'm just going to draw a card from the Love Oracle. It's not about love, though there could be some messages that are kind of appropriate for that, but more to just get a historical figure that might bring together some of this energy and what Spirit has been saying to you about what is quirky and different about you. Ernest Hemingway. Okay. So he was sort of a bit, well, he didn't necessarily break some rules around writing, but he set some sort of standards around writing, one of the great writers. Very much his own person too, very independent. He says, treasure those seconds when you felt your heart beating hard again. Yeah, that's going to be your big navigation thing in the midst of all of this. You can hear that even when there's chaos. He says, don't allow any tourists into your own private Paris. Yeah, very independent. Very independent. And tourists aren't allowed, only those that are important to you. And to love someone and mean it is a rare and valuable thing. And you know that. That's why this is why the heart is the guiding force here. I think when you love deeply. I think the spiritual connection is very much to a soul family and connects even to sort of ancestors. But I think that you normally go in and you disrupt things and you play this it's almost Scarlet Pimpernel in a way. It's sort of like, not necessarily what you're doing and how you do it is just not seen. But when your heart is engaged, you do actually let the person in. You do let them know. And love and prosperity and your sense of like self-determination can come together because what you are bringing is rare and valuable, and that brings that to you. So hope you enjoyed that, pile one. I really enjoyed it because I like your energy. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Hermit, which is very interesting given some of these other cards that have come up. This particular hermit, I think, he looks almost slightly grumpy, which I kind of like. He's up there on the top of the mountain. He's got his lantern. He's looking into the distance and trying to assess what to do. So I think there's sort of something in your individual spiritual pathway, your approach, that's quite considered, and it's a little bit detached, generally speaking. And I think that it often makes you be a bit of a loner. But having said that, there is also something where when people least expect it, I think, you connect. But it's like you do it, you appear to be just sort of jumping into something and trying something out, particularly around relationships. But in fact, it's very considered and very wise. But it's like suddenly you do something. So this feels very much like someone who is often seen as a loner, often seen as sort of the one who doesn't want to settle down, the one who's always sort of seeking the spiritual path rather than the emotional path. But there's a kind of I feel with this hermit, there's a kind of a focus that people aren't seeing, that they're watching. So I think that you're looking for the one, I think, whether it's and probably in love, to be honest, with this card here, but at least looking for the right connections and the right pathway that isn't as separate. You certainly have a lot of wisdom. Like the hermit is wise, and then we have the combination of knowledge, experience, and intuitive understanding, wisdom. You can connect all of those things. I often think that's a really wonderful way of describing wisdom, because I always see wisdom as knowledge and intuition combined. They're the two together. Knowledge on its own gives us lots of facts. Intuition on its own gives us that sort of good gut instinct. Put the two together and you get wisdom. And it often comes with age. Some of you may be older, more mature. You don't have to be. You might be old, but you might be mature before your time as well too. But this is saying take a leap. Leap and the net will appear. Take a chance. I think but look, he's up on a mountain and we've got then take a leap. I think that you surprise people. And here we have hot chocolate, flirting, new connections, friendship and feeling, get-togethers. I feel like a lot of the time you're off on your own. You're doing your sort of spiritual stuff. You may be into a lot of sort of spiritual practices that are very sort of on your own, quiet, meditative, all those things. And then suddenly you're in the midst of life and you're taking risks and it appears like it's all kind of light, but there's a lot of wisdom behind it. There's a lot of actual calculation and not calculation in a bad way, but like assessment that's occurred before you do it. So calculated risk is part of you, but it comes from a wisdom, it comes from a spiritual direction, but it's fun. Like it surprises people. So I think a lot of the time you probably seem quite serious and then suddenly you just do something kind of completely quirky and different. And it's not as risky as it appears. You do kind of know there's a net there. So a lot of your sort of spirituality is very intuitively designed to find the right people and the right connections so that when you can be light, you can really be light. Really interesting. Okay, so let's have a look and see a little bit more detail. So we're going to ask a little bit more about what is truly unique about your spiritual path, because it's like, you're some sort of spiritual, it almost feels like a monk. I'm not saying you are, but that kind of energy. And then you're suddenly at a party and you're dancing and everybody's just completely entranced because it's unexpected. So let's ask a little bit more about that. Then let's ask how you communicate and integrate it. And then let's see how you have to deal with more conventional approaches, like either the very conventional, let's be a monk and let's be very serious, or the very, let's just throw everything to the wind and not be spiritual. We'll have a look at how you deal with that. But firstly, just a little bit more about this unique, it's a kind of a unique balance of gravitas and frivolity, but I'm not meaning frivolity is probably not even the right word, because that sounds frivolous and it's not really frivolous, but it's gravitas and maturity and fun or something like that. So let's see what we get. Knight of Swords. This is, you surprise people sometimes. King of Swords reversed. Five of Pentacles reversed. The Hierophant. Seven of Swords reversed. So, there's something comedic, actually. You have a comedic side to you. You may be sort of someone who's incredibly quick-witted, very good with communication. There's a lot of the greatest comics are incredibly smart, incredibly articulate. and incredibly wise, and they use humour and like cutting through things and levity and fun to make very serious points. And this is kind of what this is showing. It's sort of like, here's the Knight of Swords, very fast thinking, can surprise people. Of all the knights, this is the one that shocks people the most. So sometimes you do something that's really shocking. You say something that's really shocking. Like on a comedic level, it feels a bit like someone like Ricky Gervais, who comes out and says things at award shows that people think, oh, you can't say that. But on another level, it's like it's really funny and it makes a point, a deeper point. There's that kind of energy. You don't have to like Ricky Gervais, but I'm just trying to use an example. And where this happens is where you think things are too pompous and not real. You're bringing the light of truth, actually. You do it in this very fun way, but it's all about the light of truth, and it's to stop people being divided, and it's to kind of get real about the belief structures. So yeah, it's very comedic. You have a very satirical. Satire is incredibly powerful. I remember reading something that said back in the days of the Druids, the more powerful creature than the Druid was the satirist. So it's like, or you think about a joker in a medieval court could say the truth in a way that nobody else could. That's kind of who you are. So that's interesting. So let's see how you communicate and integrate that in with your spiritual pathway, but also in with others that you're dealing with. King of Cups reversed, Queen of Pentacles, Seven of Wands, Knight of Pentacles reversed, Temperance reversed. Okay. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is heal. Heal yourself, heal others, heal something. So it comes from a very sort of warm heart. It's interesting too, because people say about, like, I do think there's a comedic thing here. They say many comedians are a little bit depressed or appear to be a little bit depressed because in a sense they do see things so clearly. And it's out of almost their pain that they find their humour. So there's something in that for you. There's something, but you do find the way to have fun, but it's sort of like it has to be contemplated first. You're finding something to be loyal to. That's what matters to you. Yeah, and for many of you, you will do this through your career and like being brave, like you're really, really brave. The interesting thing is though, that you are not going to stay anywhere that's intemperate. Like if you sort of jumped in and have only decided in the end, this is not the right place for me, you will not stay to that. But if you commit to something, you're there, ride or die, basically. But there's something that you're healing in yourself and in others around this. So let's see with 3 cards, what happens when the more conventional types around sort of, in a sense, challenge your side of things. 10 of Wands reversed, 4 of Pentacles reversed, the Tower. Oh, you just break through it. You're too clever. Like it would be foolish, in fact, for people to sort of like push back to try and keep things together. You just kind of look at it and it looks silly and it looks old and it looks worn out and you break through it anyway. And you use this humour to do it. This is your wisdom. Like people who take you on, more fool them, I have to say. So that's interesting. So let's have a look what I felt with this when we're talking about what's quirky or unique in somebody. It will be both impacted by fortune and it will also impact your fortune. So I thought I'd look at 3 cards from a deck that's a fortune deck for how those 2 things operate for you, whether it's warnings or whether it's things that are great to leverage. And then also use a different deck to look at what signs will tell you when those parts of your fortune are particularly being activated. So firstly, we get the Maiden, a new relationship blossoms. Okay, there's something about, because there's flirtation and everything. A lot of this kind of thing may really come to the fore when love is in the air. And the Spider, be meticulous and patient. Well, you are, so that's good. And the Spirit, unseen forces watch over you. So that's nice. It tells you that you've got sort of spiritual support and spiritual protection, which makes sense with the wisdom, connecting to that kind of energy. But I think for many of you, this is probably suggesting that a relationship is either around you at the moment that really brings this out and brings it to the fore, or which will. Or you may come out and show that sort of comedic, funny, anarchic almost side of you because of love, in a way that before you've kind of held back. You'll be careful about how you do it, and you'll have sort of something watching over you. So this is, and I think this is particularly in love, this is really where this is going to be shown. Though I do think many of you, it's sort of like this tendency you can come in and you can burst the bubble of the pretentious. Let's see the sign that could be telling you this new relationship's coming in. Feathers. Okay. So if you see feathers, and you walk down the street, if you see feathers, on material and so forth, if you look at a feather duster, whatever it might be, feathers are a bit of a sign that something is coming in. So pay attention to that. Around the spider, a bit of a sign that this is when you really need to sort of go into this energy of being very meticulous and sure and wise before taking the jump that appears to be a risk, but is actually a calculated risk. Infinity. Okay, I think that this is saying, I think in general, this is your nature and you do this and you're very funny and you're very clever and a force to be reckoned with. But I think this is saying it's really going to come into being and you'll be taking the real jump into your sort of, your sense of self when there's a relationship that makes you think this is bigger than all the rest of this. A kind of soul twin type thing. And then a sign that these spirit energies are around watching over you. Eagle, okay. Eagle, feathers, interesting. Winged creatures for you, and we have the owl up there. So there's sort of something in that space around that for you. So if you see eagles, if you hear songs talking about eagles, if you listen to music by the eagles, whatever, that could be a sign that spirit is with you. You could even have an eagle spirit with you. Now, speaking of such things, the next thing I was going to do is look at some animal spirits around to help you with your quirky nature. And I'm using a beautiful new deck I have called Luminous Creatures, which is really cute. It's so cute, though, that I find it hard sometimes to know exactly what the animals are. So I'm just going to lay out a couple and then check the book because I'm not all that good at identifying them sometimes, I've got to say, but they are really cute. So a couple of animal spirits around you to support you. Firstly, well, that's some kind of bird again. We'll see what type of bird it is. It's very pretty. And, is that a little deer maybe? I don't know. I probably shouldn't guess because that could be wrong. I'm just going to check. Okay, so that is a deer. So that's good. And this is a hummingbird. So the hummingbird's all about hope and magic. When it is around you, it's sort of a powerful symbol of hope. So there is a hope. There is this, you're going to hope and jumping into something, particularly around love, I think, is going to be rewarded here. It reminds you that even in the darkest of times, you can find light. And so light, the hermit is able to find light. And there's the power of magic and manifestation. So you really can bring this in. You really can bring in what you want. And then the deer is elegant and elusive. So this is your kind of clever energy, I think. It's a sign that you kind of need to tap into that grace, that elegance, that timing. Timing is really important in all of this. And it says trust your instincts, move with grace and elegance. And I think for you, eloquence. I think you're incredibly articulate, incredibly eloquent. And I think these energies will bring magic and grace to what you do. Because if your kind of normal quirky thing here is to show your wisdom through humour, but then it needs to be almost softened by love because love's involved as well. This brings you the magic and brings you the grace to kind of bring all that together. So I do think for many of you, this is a sign of love coming in or of a love that you're in going to the next level on some way. So that's really lovely. So let's also get you some stars to guide your way. If we've had like animal spirits bringing you hope, magic, grace, elegance, what stars guide your way? Pile 2. Waxing crescent moon, the setting, set your intentions. Yeah, because there is a sense of magic. Set your intentions before you take the leap of faith. That brings the magic in. That helps the hummingbird bring the magic in. The 12th house. Yeah, because you have been very private and hidden. There's a lot of wisdom, a lot of psychic energy. Like a lot of this is psychic. It's just that I think you manifest it with humour. and that kind of thing. But like, nevertheless, there's a lot of privacy. Humor can often be, can either reveal or conceal. And I think that might be the balance for you. When do you reveal, which might be where love is concerned, and where do you use it to conceal so that you can deal with, as I say, the pomposity of the rest of the world? And Gemini, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. There's this sort of, you're articulate, you're clever as can be, like all of that kind of thing. You can use wit, you can use the way that you talk, eloquence, all of that sort of stuff. And it allows you to take the risks and to seem almost really out of character sometimes for what is a more serious sort of person, or what appears to be a serious sort of person. So to finish off, I just want to pull a card from the Love Oracles. Now, in your case, because there's love involved, it kind of makes sense. It's the Love Oracles, but I was really using it more for historical people and ones that might bring some of this energy together. So let's see what we get for you, pile 2. Wow, Queen Victoria. So there's a lot of power about that, but yeah, she would have seemed to be very sensible and would have had to appear to be very sensible. But she did love greatly. So a great love created many other things for her. So that's interesting. It's sort of like the very sensible, stoic sort of person, wise, running a nation, but equally jumped into love. There's something like that. Her advice is, I would venture to warn against too great intimacy with artists, as it is very seductive and a little dangerous. I think that might be you kind of knowing that you can sort of flirt with the sort of risky side of things with your humour and your artistry. She says, no girl would go to the altar if she knew all. So I think, interestingly for this, I think that there has been almost a sense here of being the lone wolf and so forth. And if you kind of knew everything, maybe you wouldn't take the leap of faith, but you're meant to take the leap of faith. And then the important thing is not what they think of me, but what I think of them. Yeah. Because you don't take any prisoners when it comes, as I say, to pomposity. I hope that resonates for you. I think it's a really fun energy, actually. And I think there's a promise of love if you're looking for it, which is kind of nice as a sort of thing I didn't expect necessarily to come up in this reading, but came up very strongly. Hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Magician. And the Magician in this deck has a kind of almost a wry expression on his face. He is pointing as above, so below. He does sort of see how things sort of connect between heaven and earth. But there's a sort of a sense of humour about him, I think, and a kind of a confidence about almost, as I say, almost the humour of being in eternity. I also like the red roses around this, which suggests that he embodies things, because the red rose in alchemy is about embodying the spirit, like bringing it into the world. So I think there's sort of something about your spiritual approach that covers all the bases and has a sense of, as I say, almost irony or levity within the quite serious thing of embodying and manifesting. And certainly manifesting is probably something that you do. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is we've got I am in balance, pondering everyday life, work management, prioritizing. I feel that a lot of your spiritual approach and what is quirky and different about you is very practical. It's about bringing a number of talents into being. The Magician has many talents. So I think you work out how to use talents and use them in balance to manifest what you want to manifest. And I think maybe sometimes where others find it hard to understand how you keep that in balance. It's like this character looks like it's sort of like 1 minute on one foot, next minute on the next foot. It's a little bit hard to sort of see exactly how the balance is achieved. So I think people don't know how you do that. And what they're not seeing is, because everything they're seeing is the action and the talent and the quirkiness. But what they're not seeing is that you have a kind of a rhythm to this. With breathe in, breathe out, with anchor, safety and stability. You appear to be very mercurial, to be very much sort of like dealing with sort of chaos and balancing it all. But within, you're very calm, because he knows, that Magician knows that he knows, basically. And you are taking in breathing in what is coming to you in terms of spiritual downloads, and you are anchoring them both in the earth and in the sea, like both emotionally and also materially. This is fully embodying everything with the red roses. So I think what is different or quirky about you is that a lot of your spiritual pathway and your magical talents, which is, considerable, manifest in a very material way. And people don't understand the magic that's there. They just think, you're this multi-talented person who seems to be able to sort of juggle a lot of things all at once. And they don't even see that there's this sort of very, very sort of zen almost energy that you have right at the core, because the confidence comes from knowing that you can do this, and that knowing that you will get the timing right, and you will consolidate and materialize things when it's necessary. So I think you've probably been really talented from when you were very young. You've been able to manifest and make things happen. You might even not entirely know how it is that it's happened, because it's an amalgamation of all your different sort of strengths and talents, and you are multi-talented. But others don't see that behind that kind of, as I say, mercurial multi-talented energy is also a sense of a process. You have a process. It is a lot calmer than it appears. I think you appear to be very electric and talented and a bit of a polymath maybe, many different talents and all that kind of thing. But underneath there's a certain kind of calm certainty to what you do. So let's see how that plays out. We're going to get a little bit more from tarot about what's unique about your spiritual path, your spiritual gifts, your magic in this case. We're then going to ask how you communicate and integrate that best in this world. And then what you do when you deal with people who are more conventional, who aren't different in this way, who aren't multi-talented actually, who aren't multi-talented and sure of themselves. Because you have a sureness of yourself that very few people have. That doesn't mean you're conceited. You're absolutely right to have it. It's very calm, but most people don't have it. So there could be some pushback on that. So let's see a little bit more about what is unique about you. 5 of Wands, 2 of Wands, 7 of Wands. Oh, wow. 4 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles reversed. Okay. So for a start, you can breathe in, breathe out. You are calm within conflict. In fact, you minimize conflict. You stop it. You stop it by having an approach and being brave enough to sort of go and make the action that you need to make. You don't get sort of dissuaded from your approach spiritually or otherwise. And I think for many of you, a lot of this plays out in material things. You have the courage to move forward. You know that you're on the right path. You just know. So you don't get dissuaded by that. And you're always balancing what needs to shift, change, and be active, and what needs to consolidate. Because the balance here, and as I say, the mercurial nature, you've got anchor, and anchor is a bit like the 4 of Pentacles here. I think it's when you go, okay, this needs to be consolidated. But the balance is also knowing when something has done its time. And that I think you can pick up when there is conflict about it. So you're always balancing the need for security versus change. And that's a key part of what you do. And you do it with a calmness that other people wouldn't know. And you make people feel safe, actually. Make others feel brave enough to move forward as well. So you're probably quite a change agent in workplaces or socially or politically. So let's have a look at how you communicate and integrate this sort of different approach. Ace of Wands, 3 of Pentacles, Chariot, 6 of Wands reversed, Wheel of Fortune reversed. Okay, so for a start, you're inspirational. This is probably the sort of the Mercury energy that I'm feeling from the Magician here, the mercurial stuff. You're inspirational. You get other people to collaborate. You can bring people into balance. You can stop conflict before it even starts. And you move things forward. It's about action. You're about action. This is why people would be surprised if they understood how calm you are behind all of this, because you're about finding the right people, inspiring them and moving forward. You're not about ego. You're not. And that's probably why this is actually working quite well for you. Underneath, you're so calm and sure about what you're doing and that you have the skills that you don't need to show off. You don't need it to be about you. You can actually have it be about other people. So you integrate this great ability by not putting people off, because you neither come across as conceited and too full of yourself and really, egotistical. People just see the balance. And they admire that. And you're so calm and stabilizing when necessary that, as I say, it's not about ego. And you're not about what comes out of this for you. Though I think ultimately, because you're so imbalanced, good things will happen. But it's not, you would never be really accused of using your spiritual gifts, your magic, your capacity to balance things in a material way just to aggrandize yourself. As a result of that, you inspire and you move things forward. And that, again, is unusual. A lot of people who are very talented, it does kind of get a bit egotistical, but you're not like that. You're not like that. You've kind of understood. You have a calm and a stability within. So what happens when the more conventional people, which are probably the more egotistical ones, actually, the ones who might want to compete, who see all the talents you have and kind of want to have centre stage, when you kind of naturally and calmly command centre stage, what happens when you come up against that? Six of Pentacles, Nine of Wands reversed, Strength. Okay, a number of things happen and it depends upon the situation. In some situations, you're going to come across this with people who are, beyond you sort of in terms of money or position or something. And they're most likely to try and almost gather your favour to them and make you sort of beholden to them. So they want to use all this to help them move forward. So you'll sometimes have people who see your talents and they want to use them for their own benefit. You'll sometimes also have people who are very careful what they say about you, very careful, and who want to kind of maybe stop some of your energy, get a little bit conservative about your energy, or even accuse you of things that aren't true, like try and stop you at the last stage of the sort of race that you're running. And there are others that try and learn from you for strength, or they're almost competing strength for strength. But I actually feel these ones actually probably ultimately could become great collaborators. So ones that are strong enough to see the value in what you're doing will connect with you. Some will be competing in a bit of a surreptitious way, and some will try and own you in a way. So it just depends, and you'll just need to be aware of how that could play out. So one of the things I thought was worth looking at here was, if we are talking about our own unique spiritual pathway and life pathway, it will be impacted by fate, and sometimes our own nature will impact the fate that comes to us. So I wanted to get 3 cards around fortune as much as anything, and then also from a different deck, the signs that will tell you when those elements of fortune are particularly important. So we get, it's interesting, this came up for another one. You will receive news from afar, the caduceus. So communication and where you get communication from is important. And also your communication is likely to be wide-ranging, I would say, and wide-reaching. Then we get the Sphinx, choose your words carefully. Yeah, there are going to be some competitors around this, I have to say. And being a little bit Sphinx-like, not showing the working parts of this is helpful for you. And the Golem, a close friend, acts on your behalf. So that's good. You've got some support around you. You may have some competitors around you and so forth, but there are people who really value you and value what you bring to it. And there's at least one who's very, very strong and it's maybe this strength. It may be they're more conventional than you, but they actually really admire what you're doing. So let's see the signs when these particular parts of your fortune are clicking in. So around receiving news from afar. Travel. Okay. When you travel, you may find news comes to you that's important. It may also be that, when you're thinking about travel, thinking about holidays, talking about travel, it could even come from people who are bringing you news from afar because they're traveling to where you are. Travel, movement is somehow connected with when you get key pieces of information. The Sphinx. What is a sign that you need to be careful with the people that you're around and what you say? Angel. Okay, well, I think that would be suggesting you have some angelic guidance around you. But, if you sort of think about angels, if you see, poems about angels, you see pictures of angel wings, pay attention to that. That's and it's interesting. The angel here has a wing and the Sphinx has a wings. So there's an energy there about paying attention to that kind of thing too, winged creatures, I think. And around the friend, the strong friend around you, Communication. Yeah, it's one who probably is going to talk to you. And there's going to be a meeting of the minds. Look at that. And again, winged creatures. It's interesting. That came up for one of the other readings as well too. It's a lot about the mind here, and that makes sense with the magician. There's that sort of, as I say, mercurial thing. But I think that this person, there's going to be a very strong telepathic energy. Okay, so speaking of winged creatures, or animals in general, I want to use the Luminous Creatures deck. It's just gorgeous. It's got all these different animal spirits in it. I don't always know what the animals are. They're very, very cute. So I'm going to put out 2. I'm going to check the book to make sure that I have identified them correctly, and we'll see what energy they're bringing to you. Okay. That looks like some sort of little fox or something, but it may not be. And, oh, unicorn. I guess that's a unicorn at least. So this is actually a wolf and the unicorn. So the wolf is all about understanding when there's danger and helping you to be aware of that and to tap into your instincts, your knowledge, your ability, and to be calm in all of that. So I think the wolf is here when you need to stand alone, when you are not around those who are your strong friends, when you're around those who either want to undermine you or who want to control you. So that gives you that sense of independence. Then we also have the unicorn, which is about purity and about getting back to the core principles, which I think is connecting you to this breathe in, breathe out, getting that safety and stability. I think the unicorn energy is here to make you feel safe and secure and know, back in your knowledge, know that you are protected, know that you have the right people around you when necessary, know that you will have a good instinct for when to speak and when to keep things a little bit elliptical. Okay, so let's also get you some stars to guide your way. Pile 3. Aquarius, so very transpersonal, very detached in the way that this sort of spiritual energy can be. The tarot card is the star, so again, hope and the innocence. Like that's a very big thing for you, to make sure that you feel what you're doing is pure. It's not about ego, but you're going to be around a lot of ego. We have cardinal, you are the initiator. You're meant to sort of make things start, move forward, change. And Scorpio. Things run deep, very deep, and very deep emotionally as well too. There's an intensity to what you do that people probably don't see because they see the more light energy, but there is an intensity as well. Okay, so to finish off, I just want to draw you a card from the Love Oracles, not because it's necessarily about love, but because it has historical figures. So I wanted to see if there was one that could encapsulate some of the energy of what is quirky, different, unique about your spiritual and life path and approach. Pile 3. Wow, Marlena Dietrich, I want to be alone. Yeah, you by and large, a lot of the time you are probably within your own world and alone. You will have good friends, but you're really kind of like the master of all things. And so, and very, there's a star-like quality though that draws people to you. She says, dress for yourself, not for a lover or occasion. Yeah, you do things for you because you know within that this is the best way to express yourself. She says, once you have forgiven your lover, get them to reheat the sin. Not really sure what that means in the context of this. Probably just that you know, there's a balance in all of this and to enjoy those that you're close to. And lastly, it's the friends you call after hours that matter. Yeah, it's the ones that really connect to you. And there's one extremely good friend. But getting back to the purity of what you do, but also a little bit of fun in with all of it and keeping everything in balance. But I do think for many of you, this is playing out around work or some sort of material cause. So you will come across competition. You will come across people who are wanting the fire that you naturally have, but know that you have it. Know, just as that magician knows right at the beginning, in the end, it's all really simple because you know what you're doing. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope that it resonates for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.